At some banks, you have to pay a fee to handle certain transactions. I didn't have any cash or a bank card with me, so I asked the bank staff if I could use WeChat Pay or Alipay. They said no. Then I asked, what about digital RMB? Again, they said no. I asked why not. They replied, we don't have the equipment for digital RMB. And that really puzzled me. Digital RMB has been around for a while now, but it's still not taking off. Why? Maybe this is the reason. Banks, the very institutions that are supposed to be promoting it, don't even have the equipment for it. If banks aren't ready, how can small businesses and individual vendors be expected to adopt it? Since the Chinese Communist Party leader Xi Jinping came to power, the digital RMB has been one of his signature projects. Early on, several Chinese experts predicted that the digital RMB will soon replace Alipay and WeChat Pay, becoming a dominant player in the mobile payment market. The government launched pilot programs in 17 provinces and 26 regions, and even mandated that civil servants receive their salaries in digital RMB. However, 5 years later, the digital RMB has neither replaced Alipay nor WeChat Pay and is scarcely used. By this year, the project appears to have reached a dead end. So what exactly is the digital RMB, and why did the Chinese government pour national resources into its development? The digital RMB, also referred to as Digital Currency Electronic Payment, DCEP, is the digital version of China's legal tender, issued by the People's Bank of China. It holds the same legal status and monetary attributes as physical cash, but is in digital form. To use digital RMB, individuals need a digital wallet, most commonly the digital RMB app developed by the People's Bank of China. This app allows users to convert bank deposits into digital RMB and vice versa. It also supports features like QR code payments, tap to pay, mobile number payments, and online transactions. One distinctive feature of the digital RMB is its dual offline payment capability, which allows users to make transactions by tapping devices together, even without an internet connection. In theory, the digital RMB offers a payment experience comparable to, if not more convenient than, Alipay and WeChat Pay. Yet public adoption has been minimal. Why? The first obstacle is the entrenched dominance of Alipay and WeChat Pay, which makes it exceedingly difficult for the digital RMB to gain traction. Both platforms are already deeply integrated into daily life, with users accustomed to their convenience. Virtually every online and offline transaction, whether it's shopping on e-commerce platforms or buying groceries, accepts these two payment methods. In contrast, the digital RMB faces significant limitations in its usability. Many merchants and businesses do not support it as a payment option. For example, a local vendor at a market might only accept cash, while shops display QR codes exclusively for Alipay and WeChat Pay. Even if someone has digital RMB, finding places to spend it remains a challenge across most cities. Why isn't digital RMB gaining traction? Because it hasn't solved a fundamental question. Why should I use it? Sure, you can mandate government employees to use it, but for regular people, we're already fine using WeChat Pay and Alipay. Why switch to digital RMB? Does it let me earn more money? Does it offer some other benefits? If there's no advantage, who's going to bother? I remember years ago when QR code payment was being introduced, there were so many incentives, one after the other. But now you're just saying, use digital RMB, and expecting people to abandon WeChat Pay and Alipay? It's laughable. Honestly, promoting digital RMB is pretty straightforward. Just announce that digital RMB will have an exchange rate of 1 to 1.5 with regular RMB. If you put in 1 yuan, you get 1.5 yuan in digital RMB. I guarantee within half a day, everyone will switch over completely to digital RMB. The Chinese government's top-down and coercive promotion of the digital RMB has failed to win over the public, resulting in its minimal presence in the market, with few people choosing to use it. Insiders have revealed that over 10 billion yuan was spent during the development phase of the digital RMB, yet basic features like offline payments remain unresolved. Critics suggest two possibilities: either a lack of innovation within the system or the misallocation of funds, potentially involving corruption. The digital RMB's built-in traceability has sparked resistance within the government and financial sectors. China's financial system is deeply intertwined with vested interests. If the digital RMB were widely adopted, how would bank staff relying on transaction fees, payment institutions earning overnight fees, or corrupt officials benefiting from bribes maintain their income streams? The Chinese government claims that the digital RMB's ultimate goal is to make money flows completely transparent. For example, if a user has 100 digital yuan, the system can trace a previous user, how long the money stayed in their wallet, its serial number, and how it was eventually spent. While this could effectively prevent crimes such as money laundering, it also eliminates the possibility of corruption and backdoor deals for government officials. Ironically, digital RMB has yet to prevent crime, but one of its creators has already been arrested. On October 20th, the Central Commission for Discipline Inspection announced that Yao Qian, former head of the Department of Technology Supervision of the China Securities Regulatory Commission and former director of its IT Service Center, was expelled from the party and removed from his post. Yao was accused of abusing regulatory power to benefit specific tech service providers, engaging in power for money deals involving virtual currencies, and accepting a significant amount of illegal bribes. Yao Qian was one of the pioneers of China's digital RMB initiative. In 2014, the People's Bank of China began exploring digital currency and established a dedicated research team, with Yao as a key member. Within the cryptocurrency community, Yao was known as China's foremost expert on digital currencies. A 2019 article by Caijing magazine described Yao as the director of the PBOC's Digital Currency Research Institute, representing one of the largest anti-Bitcoin nations in reconsidering the importance of Bitcoin and digital currencies. Yao's downfall has sparked ridicule on overseas social media. Some users suggested that Yao had been an early supporter of Bitcoin and Ethereum and invested heavily in both, speculating that his arrest might be more about political missteps than actual corruption. Others pointed out the irony of a government that prohibits citizens from trading Bitcoin while allowing its officials to engage in the practice. The independent social media channel Zai Shuo noted that Yao's arrest highlights political struggles within the Chinese government regarding the digital RMB project. While framed as an anti-corruption effort, some suspect it reflects opposition within the system to continuing the initiative. In 2017, with State Council approval, the PBOC spearheaded a collaborative effort involving major commercial banks and related institutions to develop the digital RMB. By the end of 2019, pilot tests began in Shenzhen, Suzhou, Xiong'an New Area, Chengdu, and the 2022 Winter Olympics venues. In 2021, authorities introduced digital red envelopes in several cities. By 2022, the digital RMB app was available for download, and more cities were designated as pilot locations. By 2024, multiple banks in Hong Kong began offering digital RMB wallets to residents. Despite the extensive promotion, skepticism about the digital RMB began surfacing publicly. In September 2023, the paper published an article titled, "Digital RMB has been promoted for 4 years. Why do so few people use it?" acknowledging for the first time that public enthusiasm for the currency remains low. Zai Shou also cited financial insiders who claim that 90% of the officially launched digital wallets are inactive zombie wallets, with the project long deemed a failure. Officials, however, have been reluctant to admit this publicly. Following Yao's arrest, the government's messaging on the digital RMB has shifted. Once touted as a transformative innovation, it is now described as merely a supplement to the existing payment system, indirectly signaling the project's failure. Critics compare the digital RMB to other high-profile, but ultimately unproductive initiatives, such as the stagnating Xiong'an New Area project, the vague and unfulfilled Common Prosperity Campaign, and the Carbon Neutrality Pledge, an ambition China is unlikely to meet. A current affairs commentator based in the US, Tangjian Yuan, remarked that Yao Qian's downfall for corruption essentially marks the collapse of the digital RMB project. This failure suggests the Chinese leadership may be pausing such initiatives to ease societal tensions and encourage the private sector to drive economic recovery, avoiding actions that could incite public discontent. Tang analyzed Xi Jinping's push for the digital RMB, attributing it to two main objectives. The first is to replace private payment platforms like Alipay and WeChat Pay with a state-controlled digital RMB, effectively nationalizing the digital payment landscape and sidelining private enterprise. The second goal is to erode individuals' control over their private property. While the government touts encryption and controlled anonymity as safeguards, digital RMB transactions are fully transparent to financial institutions and authorities, granting the state complete oversight of how individuals earn and spend money. Tang noted that this level of control could severely limit personal freedoms, with regulators able to restrict access to funds or impose usage conditions at will. This replaces individual rights with state power, reinforcing Xi's broader aim of intensifying social surveillance, Tang said. Economist Antonio Graceffo has highlighted the growing reach of China's surveillance apparatus, which spans from the extensive Skynet network of cameras to its Great Firewall. Now, Beijing is leveraging tools like the digital yuan and internet access certifications to further tighten control. According to Graceffo, these measures offer no benefits to the public while intensifying state surveillance. China's Skynet system operates 700 million cameras, employing facial and gait recognition technologies to identify individuals. Combined with a social credit system, citizens are scored based on compliance with government directives. Meanwhile, the Great Firewall blocks foreign media and information, leaving Chinese citizens with only state-approved content. Gmail, foreign social media platforms, and other online resources are inaccessible, while domestic platforms are tightly monitored. Sharing restricted content, even privately, can result in severe consequences, further curbing freedom of speech and association. In this digital environment, individuals with low social credit scores face restrictions on bank accounts, travel, employment, housing, and even personal relationships. Associating with those who have low scores can negatively impact one's own score. Graceffo underscored that the government controls every aspect of life, from what citizens read and say to who they interact with, once extending even to the number of children they could have. A researcher at Taiwan Tsinghua Institution for Economic Research, Wang Guocheng, noted that reports suggest the digital yuan could be used to implement a system akin to rationing. He explained that funds might be allocated in virtual folders for specific purposes, such as a daily limit of 50 yuan for pork purchases. Once the limit is reached, further spending would be blocked, effectively recreating a planned economy. The integration of the digital yuan with a social credit system could deepen these restrictions. Those with low credit scores might only be allowed to withdraw minimal amounts for daily living, while high scorers could access larger sums. Dissidents or individuals with severely low scores might find themselves unable to withdraw funds altogether, leaving them in a state of economic and social isolation. Such measures, Wang argued, would leave dissenters without even the means to call for help. Beyond domestic control, Beijing's ultimate ambition appears to be challenging U.S. financial hegemony. An economist report in October described China's efforts to internationalize the yuan and reduce reliance on U.S.-dominated financial systems. However, the report noted significant obstacles. Most wealthy nations are U.S. allies, unlikely to adopt the yuan, and global trade involving non-allied nations accounts for only 25% of total trade. Furthermore, the risks associated with holding yuan make widespread adoption challenging. Wang believes Beijing views the digital yuan as a tool to counter the dominance of the US dollar, but he highlighted technical vulnerabilities. For instance, Taiwan could theoretically disrupt the system by flooding it with counterfeit transactions. Right now, the system is susceptible to cyber attacks. NTU political science professor Fan Chia-chung emphasized that Beijing's digital yuan strategy faces two key hurdles. First, international distrust of the yuan due to political interference undermines its credibility. Second, cross-border transactions facilitated by the digital yuan could exacerbate capital flight, a major concern for Beijing. Fan suggested that Xi Jinping's push for the digital yuan ultimately aims to reduce dependence on U.S. financial systems, preparing for potential conflict with Washington. However, the stalled progress of the digital yuan and the recent downfall of its key proponent, Yao Qian, indicate waning support for the initiative. Yao's removal under the guise of anti-corruption has further undermined the project. Tang Jingyuan remarked that the digital yuan threatens the interests of powerful elite families within the CCP, whose financial privileges could be curtailed by the initiative. This outcome, he argued, signals Xi's diminishing authority amid intensifying internal power struggles. Chen Po-kong, a political commentator, noted that recent dismissals of Xi's allies, including some of his closest confidants, point to an erosion of his power. Chen described this trend as evidence of Xi being forced to make concessions, even at the expense of his inner circle, as a means of navigating internal challenges.